As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
Welcome back, Reluctant Preppers. I'm delighted to say that we have an important guest tonight. Will Lehr, who is the managing partner and founder of Perpetual Assets, is here to talk with us about self-storage IRAs. And this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. I'll hit that before I start probing Will with questions that we've received from viewers as well as our own. Will, thank you so much for joining us here on Reluctant Preppers.
Well, thank you for having me, sir. I really appreciate the opportunity.
I wanted to get you on here because once I found out that you were managing self-storage IRAs for people, it really has been something we've been trying to get a guest to come in and explain the ins and outs of to our audience. The reason it's of particularly hits near and dear to my heart was we have suffered two major setbacks in our retirement funds, both with the dot-com collapse and the 2008 collapse, both so in 2000 and in 2008. In 2000, we had our 401k turn into a 101k. That's the joke that people used to say, but it wasn't funny to us because it actually was what happened. And I resolved after that once the market reinflated, I was going to protect us somehow. I wasn't going to let that happen again. So when it went back up again, at what seemed like a pretty market high, I moved over, sold almost all of our stocks and moved over into cash, and it was FDIC insured and so on. And then after a while of like 0.25% or 0.8% interest, I asked my broker, is there any way I could get just a little bit more yield on this money and still not be exposed to the stock market? And he said, yeah, we got this nice money market equivalent fund called the reserve fund. And so moved the monies into there. And lo and behold, that's code words for they're supposed to have 2-day access to your funds, but that means they'll pay you about 1.5% so they can just scandalously risky, derivative bets on the back end, and it got tangled up in Lehman Brothers and so on. So when that collapsed in 2008, our funds were frozen, and we never did get all of them back. Just now, 8 years later, we just got back the last portion we're gonna get, but we never did get all of it back. So we've been burnt more than once on both stocks and on so-called money market equivalent funds. And finally, my wife just said, can't we just have our IRA be in gold? And I thought, not that I know of, because everything I found out about all the choices I had with my broker were just various stocks that you could put or funds that you could put your money in. And somebody said, well, there's gold or silver equivalent exchange traded funds called SLV or GLD. And the more I checked into those, it's like, I'm not confident that they really have the physical metal and you could really get possession if you needed to and that kind of thing. They don't promise that at all. And so finally we found out, okay, there is such a thing as a precious metals IRA. And if you close out, you can roll over your IRA funds into this other IRA and it held at a custodian, and you can purchase metals and they'll be held in vault storage for you. Okay, we did that. So we did that. And then I read 2 articles in the same week that said people who had tried to go and get access, who had finally retired and wanted access to their metals, couldn't get their metals back from the custodian, and they didn't really have segregated, individual storage and that sort of thing. And I thought, holy smokes! Once again, there's this counterparty risk, and you can't control this, and you're exposed to whether somebody else is going to fulfill their end of the deal. And finally, I started seeing some stories about home storage or self-storage IRAs, and we really wanted to get you in here to talk to us about that. And I understand that you have significant experience in exactly that area. That's your area of specialization. So if you could please give us a quick hit on what is the concept, what is the basic concept of a self-storage IRA, and how is it provided as in the tax code?
Yes. Well, thank you for that. It is a type of self-directed IRA. It is called an IRA LLC. It's been around for decades. It has been used for all kinds of different investments. And you'll find out that it is the most open investment platform, in the IRA industry. I mean, you literally are given what's called checkbook control of the IRA checking account, bank account, once it's set up and funded. It's a type of self-directed IRA whereby the IRA buys or invests into a newly formed limited liability company typically filed in your state of residence. And the company functions as an investment holding company. You, the individual, are the manager of this entity, of this company. Your IRA, your self-directed IRA account, is the legal owner of this company. As an investment holding company, you're going to manage it. In fact, you're going to go open a bank account. One of the last steps is we have you open a bank account for this company at your local bank or credit union or larger money laundering bank if you prefer. And that is where your IRA funds will inevitably go. And from that point, from that bank account, you will manage them. At which point you can invest in just about anything imaginable, except for life insurance contracts and collectibles. Of course, here today we're talking about precious metals. This strategy, you can invest in precious metals, and there's a little known exemption in the tax code when referencing exemptions to collectibles and coins and bullion that can be owned. The U.S. Eagle coins are mentioned in a separate instance in separate exemption paragraphs within the coins and bullion description, if you will. They are mentioned in gold, in silver, and in platinum as able to be owned by an IRA, but they do not have to be held by a third-party trustee. So they don't have the third-party storage requirement language that the other bullion has. Well, if you call Fidelity or you call Merrill Lynch or you call whoever and say, hey, I want my 401k or my I want silver eagles delivered to my house, please. It's not possible, right? This is the only structural framework whereby you're able to drive the investments, direct the investments, and store on behalf of the LLC those metals. We advise you to keep them. Don't keep them with personal assets. Don't keep it in your home safe next to your home coins, or your personal coins rather. Keep it in a separate location, in the hole in your backyard if you wish. That is it in a nutshell, and it's of course can be used for all kinds of things, but it's all about really privacy, security, and flexibility within your IRA.
And once again, that elimination of counterparty risk, because not only if you're invested in stocks, you're dependent on a whole bunch of people to ever see your money again. You're dependent on those companies that are out there that you're the stockholder in, how they perform. You're dependent on the markets themselves and how they perform and what the psychology of other investors are. You're dependent on your broker. You're dependent on this whole chain of before you ever see your money again. In this case, you're not dependent on anybody. The markets can go crashing down. The banks can go belly up. The brokerages can all lock up. The system can seize up, and you're completely remain insulated from all of that counterparty risk. Am I overstating that, or is that accurate?
You're exactly right. I mean, if you are personally holding the assets owned by your IRA LLC, and the system melts, banks freeze, we go through another credit freeze, everything that's coming. I mean, potentially even a hyperinflationary crisis or a series of massive devaluations of our currency. And regardless with what is coming, if you believe that metals are the place to be, which it's those of us that are studying what's going on and have studied money, it's hard to argue that it's not. Perhaps really one of the only places to be. You control it. If everything falls apart, it's in your hands.
In the one area of risk that we wanted to probe deeper, one of our viewer questions was about the legality of this. And some people that advertise, some companies that advertise helping you set up precious metals IRAs specifically warn against having a self-storage IRA because they claim that this is a risky area because it's not clear in the tax code, and the IRS could audit you and you could lose everything that way. So could you specifically address what your research tells you about the legality of this arrangement and why you believe it's a reasonable choice for people? Yes.
About 4 or 5 years ago, before we really started making waves doing this, there wasn't really any of this information about. Since then, there are competing companies that are out there, and I think there is a big miscommunication, if you will. There are folks that think we are advising that you can take any bullion, and as long as you do this IRA LLC and you put it in the LLC, you can buy any bullion you want and store it anywhere you want. That's not what we're saying. We're using this little-known exemption about the Eagles, which I've not found any of the forces that are arguing against the ability to do this have not even acknowledged that reference or that exemption. So, but to answer your question, I mean, the structural framework of the IRA LLC has been tried in court, and it has been upheld structurally every single time. Now, there have, of course, been cases where someone messed up and they, committed a prohibited transaction, which we try to help walk you through. It is basically self-dealing. For example, an individual used IRA LLC funds to give a loan to another business that he had an ownership interest in personally. Well, that would be like you giving yourself a loan from the IRA money. You can't do that. You can't personally benefit. Nor can your wife or nor spouses, nor parents, nor children. You can't issue them loans. You can't buy them a home to live in. All those types of things. But so structurally, it is sound. The act of taking Eagle coins, U.S. minted Eagles, and putting them under your mattress has never been tried in court. And in fact, we're a very small sliver of the percentage of the marketplace utilizing the IRA LLC for that. The IRA LLC is a very small sliver of the self-directed IRA marketplace, which is an even smaller, let alone small sliver of the overall IRA marketplace. So it just hasn't been tried in court yet. Now, for those that are most concerned about that, they might get a safety deposit box at a local bank, which, again, I don't per se recommend, but that's bank property. In the event of banks shut their doors, you're probably not going to get access to that vault, to that box. But I know that folks have considered that and have gotten a box at their local bank or credit union in the name of the LLC, and they've perhaps kept the metals there. You can still keep the metals in a vault, in a private third-party depository trustee vault if you wish, and it doesn't have to be a government-run institution. It could still be a private vault, where so there are, to answer that question, I hope that does help clarify, and we've got some supporting articles, and we've got the tax code, and we've got an analysis of it all on our website. So yeah, that information is there, but no, the act of physically taking those coins, and it hasn't been tried in court yet. So, but there are ways to protect yourself should it be.
You've mentioned Eagles several times. Just to clarify, crystal clear for our viewers, you're talking about U.S. Golden Eagles, U.S. Silver Eagles, and U.S. Platinum Eagles, coins that are issued by the U.S. Mint.
Correct. And to add with the gold, it's all of the fractionals as well, the 1 ounce, the 1/10 ounce, the 1/4 ounce, and the 1/2 ounce.
Specifically for the gold?
So yeah, the gold is the only one minted in, and I don't think the platinum is, or maybe it used to be in a 1/2, but it's just the 1 ounce platinum, 1 ounce silver, and then all 4, I guess it is, of the gold.
And if people want to find out more about how to set this up, because it's not trivial, and you guys, well, that's if you could just take a minute and explain about how you got into this. What's the experience that makes you able to speak as an expert on this topic? Yeah,
my partner Gus and I. Specifically, we're in metals the last 10 years. And prior to that, I came from a financial advisor background, so was actually, advising people on their personal wealth and their investments. And that was as I was going through my awakening process with what is really going on in the world. And so I quickly had to get out of that completely toxic environment. And led to metals, got into the dealing space and the wholesale dealing space, working in the metals, and from within the metals space, learned about this strategy. Learned about, because I had friends, I had clients, I had folks that were cashing out their IRAs and paying the penalties and the taxes, and then putting it into the metals. So once we learned about this, for those of us that were really head over heels for the metals, we said, man, this is a slam dunk. Nobody even knows about it, even people in our community. And that's what we've spent the last 4 or 5 years doing, is acknowledging, is educating even the folks with microphones out there that silver investors and analyzers that didn't know this existed. But yes, it coming from the metals background, this was a huge fit in for us. And we've gotten, we have private wealth firms that actually send us clients to convert their IRAs, and we send them back to them, and they're investing in, private wealth, which is historically what this has been used for, the majority of anyway, for private equity investments.
And just to make it explicit for people, another one of the benefits you didn't mention, you mentioned the privacy, the control, the flexibility, eliminating counterparty risk. Now you just mentioned in passing avoiding tax penalties for early withdrawal, early distribution from either a 401k or IRA. If you can roll that over directly and keep that tax-favored status as a self-directed IRA, it's still an IRA. And so that means you're avoiding that 10% penalty for early withdrawal or early distribution. So that's right off the top. But then how does that play out for people then when they attain the age where they can access their IRA? What's the end game of this self-storage IRA? When it matures, a sense, or when you mature and you can get at your IRA, how do you do that? What steps do you have to take?
Great question. Yeah, it is very flexible in that regard. Once you attain an age where you are eligible or required to take those distributions, you can do so in numerous ways. You can, let's say, the entire account is invested in Silver Eagles, which are buried in your backyard, and it's the year, whatever, fast forward, and you have to take out, or you need to take out X amount, $10,000 worth. You can actually withdraw that equivalent dollar value in property in kind. So you can take out whatever the ounce count is to be the equivalent of $10,000 in value at the time in those Silver Eagles, and take them directly out of the hole in the ground labeled XYZ LLC and move them over to your personal hole in the ground, if you will, or spend them for cash, withdraw the cash. You can take property out in kind, or you can withdraw cash. And at which point, you would withdraw from the thing until it was essentially dissolved. And
as people who are watching this channel, a lot of the people watching our channel are in their main earning years and approaching retirement years. So as people consider whether they look at their statements that they get from their employer or whatever about whether it's their own IRA they've been contributing to, or whether it's through their 401k from their employer, what experience do you have on whether people can, in fact, roll over from IRAs or 401ks into one of these self-storage IRAs? Does it depend on the plan that they're coming from, or are all IRAs eligible to roll over into this, and are all 401ks, or is it only if they're leaving their employer, is the only time they can get access to their 401k, that sort of thing?
Good question. Any IRA should be eligible. If it's just an IRA, maybe it was an old 401k at some point when you left the company, you rolled it into an IRA somewhere at your local bank or at a brokerage firm, what have you. Any IRA should be eligible for a rollover. In fact, I've never come across. It's an individual retirement account. You have the ability to roll it over to a different individual retirement account. You control it, at least where you can house the account. A 401k, a 403b, a TSP, pension plans, any of these group plans where there's an employer involved, those function, they're an entirely different beast, and it's all in the fine print of that specific plan. So if you have one of those plans, we help you. I mean, we basically find out if you're eligible or not. Most of the time, 90% of the time, if you are under 59 and a half and you're still employed with the company where that plan is present, you're stuck. You cannot access the money. That's most of the time. There are sometimes exemptions called in-service withdrawals where they'll allow you to withdraw in, half of it maybe, or sometimes all of it, but it's rare. It's usually locked up. Typically, though, if you've attained 59 and a half, even if you're still employed and contributing to the plan, you can roll out what's in there.
Okay.
So yeah, we help with that. We help decipher if you can do that or not.
And what you've described is logical and it's straightforward, but there is some work involved. How much work is typically involved to get this set up? How long can people expect that this would take?
It takes about 3 or 4 weeks. Sometimes quicker, sometimes a little longer, depending on the funds really getting them released on from their current home. Sometimes some of those group plans and 401ks can be a little tricky. They like to make it difficult to get they don't like to see capital leave. So sometimes they can be a little tricky, but usually it's about a 3 to 4 week process. We really handhold through the whole process, myself or my partner Gus, as owners of the company. So you're not dealing with an employee or, we're holding your hand through the whole process and crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's, making sure you're comfortable, advising you through the whole thing as well. It's quite a bit of paperwork once it's all said and done, and quite a few steps with the different regulatory bodies involved to get it created and approved, et cetera. But we try to make it very turnkey for the client to where you're just signing papers. It's kind of like buying a house in a few stages. You're just signing some papers 3 different times.
For those who want to find out more without committing, but just getting a little more detail, more information so they can peruse it, how can they do that?
Perpetualassets.com is our website. There's a plethora of information on there, videos, articles. There's a contact us button. You can send us a message. Our 1-800 number is on there as well, 888-281-2630. You can call us on that anytime. And we're very, no pressure. I mean, it's the relationships that we create with people doing this are what's important to us. And if you're stuck and you can't roll your money out, it's not, we're still gonna help you try and not charge you anything. I mean, it's just it's what we do, and we hope that maybe someone asks you about this someday and you might refer them our way. I mean, that's how this works. The referrals that we've gotten off of this have been astounding because of what this is, because of how it works.
People can talk to you about their current situation. They can talk to you about what their options are, and you can give them information without any commitment on their part until they decide what they want to do.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. If we could just, before we let you go, if you could just give us a quick update on your view. It happens to be a pretty interesting time in the precious metals market. After a strong first quarter last year, the middle of the year was very kind of lackadaisical over the last year for precious metals, and then we saw again strength in the fourth quarter particularly, and now in January was a great month, and we had a little break, and now we're starting to see interest again. So could you talk to people about what you see and going ahead for precious metals and why this might be a particularly opportune time if they want to roll over funds out of the stock market, which everybody has been talking about being in a bubble, et cetera, why this might be an opportune time for them to consider moving from other equities into precious metals?
Yeah, the metals are very close, if not at their lows, especially in the physical markets. I mean, I've been working in the metals for many years now, and what I've witnessed over the last 2 to 3 years, specifically at certain times, like last summer, a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago, when the price of silver dipped down and we had a serious issue. Premiums, if you were buying silver at that time, you remember this. Premiums jumped substantially. They started with Silver Eagles. They always do. And they went from your usual $2.75 on the retail side to $5, $6, $7 an ounce. The price of a Silver Eagle, in fact, never dropped below. It was like $18.50 or something. They always were. The final retail price was in that price point, regardless where spot went.
I noticed that.
It started with the Eagles.
It was really frustrating because my wife and I were sitting there waiting. We wanted to get a few monster boxes, and we kept watching the price. And you can't help doing the math in your head and figuring, well, gosh, if the spot gets down there, I for sure could get a monster box for that. And no, it would resist going down below a certain point because of that premium. Yeah.
Yep, that was the floor. And I think that floor, right now, Silver Eagle's about $20 and change. Getting them for less than $18.50, $19 it's just not going to happen, guys. It's not going to happen again. If we see spot price crash, if we see an equities crash, a market crash, and a commodities price crash like we did in 2008, you might see $5, $10, $5 silver on the spot price, but the market will break, I believe, at that point. You will not. It almost broke a year and a half ago. It started with the Eagles, and then it trickled into all products, silver bars. I thought that was going to be the end of it. And it recovered. Somehow, miraculously, the market recovered. Premiums came back down, and here we are again. It's starting to climb back up. We're showing signs of life again. It's 2017. There's so much just madness in the air. The equity markets leave something to be, unknown. I mean, if we have extreme monetary easing, you could see the Dow, you could see all these equities continue to climb. But it's funny money. It's you'll never actually get the real asset out of it unless you time it perfectly. And if you want to gamble like that, then go for it. But I think the returns that we're going to see in physical silver alone will be pretty astounding with what is coming.
Yeah, if you could touch on that just for a moment. The gold-silver ratio has been out of kilter for some time and increasingly so. David Morgan and other experts on here who talked about the historical ratio of gold-silver coming out of the ground at approximately like 9 to 1 or 10 to 1 over history, and the historical average ratio being 15 to 1 between gold price and silver price. But recently we've been up in the up even as high as 50 to 1, 60 to 1, 70 to 1. It's been really what we've been hearing more and more on all of the experts who've been weighing in, especially over the past 2 to 3 weeks, has been that they're expecting to see a outperformance dramatically of silver, and this year being highly likely. What's your view on that?
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, in fact, I don't think you can find someone in our space who is pro precious metals that will argue against that. I don't think there's anyone you can find out there who's going to tell you that gold is going to go up at a faster rate than silver. It's really not mathematically possible if you understand the fundamentals, like you just mentioned. I mean, currently today they come out of the ground about 8, 9 to 1. Above ground available for investment is about parity, 1 to 1. Silver is consumed. It is the technology metal. It is used in industry, and we're a technological world, and the likelihood of increasing uses of technology are only increasing, only greater. And the likelihood of large hordes of gold being unknown or hidden away or stashed by criminals somewhere to potentially be released, or who knows? The likelihood of stashes of gold is much, much higher than the likelihood of stashes of silver. And aside from any type of conspiracy stuff, just the market raw fundamentals. Silver should be trading today at $100, $150 an ounce just on market fundamentals, just raw market fundamentals, supply, demand, what it's used for, how much it's used, and what it comes out of the costs, et cetera, to bring it to market. So you throw a monetary currency crisis on top of that. Yeah, it's, gold is to preserve your purchasing power, and I believe that silver is to vastly expand it. Yeah, the ratio now is about 70 to 1. Historically, it's averaged, 10 to 15. And I think it's going to go back closer to that 10 to 15 number, if not even tighter. So, yeah, you want to own silver over gold if you've got room for it. Really, the only reason I favor gold is if you need mobility. You can put a lot of wealth in your pocket and run. But enter Bitcoin. If you have any interest in Bitcoin, that's where it comes in pretty interestingly handy, and may have the potential upside of silver.
Will, is there anything else before we let you go that you wanted to add for our viewing audience?
I really these are strange days, my good sir. I think that people should do a lot of soul searching, do a lot of praying. Don't make any rash decisions with anything you do, whether it's your money or your family or your home or your food, or don't be rash. None of us know what's really going to unfold and how. And I think all of us are going to be shocked, surprised, and hopefully pleasantly but maybe not in many ways. May we all just pray for peace and calm and try to support each other. I think that's going to be the real thing moving forward, is if we can rise up and help each other and stop fighting.
Well, Will Lehr, managing partner and co-founder of Perpetual Assets, thank you so much for joining us and educating us on this here on Reluctant Preppers. We've been waiting for this lesson for a long time, and finally we've got someone who's an expert at this who can come in and explain it to us. Really appreciate that for our audience.
The pleasure is mine, Dunnigan. I do appreciate it, sir.